The Game Artist Alliance is excited to announce Creating AAA Quality Game Assets from Concept to In-Game, a step-by-step, start-to-finish guide on how to create professional quality modeled and textured game assets. For this exercise, we'll be developing a medieval fantasy shield. For this series, we'll be creating this model in Maya, one of the leading industry standard 3D asset development tools. Maya is also free to students, teachers, and educators. However, the tools and techniques we'll use can be found in almost any 3D content creation software, such as Blender, 3D Max, Cinema 4D, and many others. So feel free to follow along with the 3D creation software of your choice. First, we'll create our character scale reference object. The base dimensions for a character in Unity and Unreal is 195 centimeters tall, which is the real-world equivalent to about 6 feet and 60 centimeters in width and depth. Something to note is, one grid unit in Unity and Unreal 4 is equal to 1 centimeter. To establish the player scale, create a polygon cube. Once our cube is created, in the channel box on the right side of your Maya window and under Inputs, modify its width and depth to be 60 units and the height to be 195 units. Next, move the pivot to the base of your character scale reference cube and then place the object at the 0 point of your 3D scene. If you're following along using Maya, a few things to note is, to move an object or group's pivot point, hold the D key or press the Insert key. Holding the X key while moving an object or a pivot will snap it to the grid as you move. Alternatively, holding the V key will snap it to the nearest vertex as you move. Press the F key to automatically focus your camera on your selected object. If you're working a multiple view workspace, hold Shift and press the F key to automatically focus all your cameras on your selected object or objects. Next, in the Layer Editor, we'll import our reference image into the front viewport. To do this, click the View drop-down in your front image viewport and under Image Plane, click Import Image. Find and select the reference image, then click Open. Next, with your reference image selected, scale your image using the Character Scale Reference Cube as a basis to how large you'd like your asset to be in-game. With the image plane still selected, move it back several units, then create and place it on a layer. Place the display type of the reference image layer to Reference and disable the layer visibility of the Character Scale Reference Cube. If you're following along using Maya and are unfamiliar with its user interface and viewport functionality, something to always keep in mind is, if over a viewport with your mouse, you can instantly maximize and minimize it by pressing the spacebar. Additionally, holding Shift and pressing the spacebar will hide or reveal the tab menus stored alongside your viewport. For a more in-depth look at the basic functionality, navigation, and interface of Maya, watch Autodesk's Maya basic tutorials that are included when first installing Maya on your computer. Something to keep in mind before you begin modeling any assets, be it character, environment, or prop. It's always good to take a moment and think about the fastest and most efficient way to create the asset. The more efficient you become in modeling, the less the question becomes if you can create something and more about how fast and efficient you can develop it. This holds especially true if you're hoping to work in the game industry. In many studios, both large and small, being successful in the interview process is only step one. Oftentimes, the last and final step is performing an art test. Art tests can vary from studio to studio, but in every case, there will inevitably be a time factor. In some cases, you may have several days, and in others, you may have as little as an hour. So taking a few moments to properly assess the fastest and most efficient way to complete any given task is always a great way to begin your work. For example, if we take a look at our reference photo, we can see that even though we are developing a hard surface asset, it has a lot of curves and organic shapes. In cases such as these, we find that starting with a polygon cube or plane would take us a lot longer to complete our model than it would if we started with a much more organic shape, In contrast, we could start with NURBS, drawing out outline and shapes, then convert it to polygons and continue building. However, this process will sacrifice a bit of control and most likely result in cumbersome cleanup work. We could use a Boolean operation, creating the original shape, then Boolean out the sides, then retopologize our model. But in 9 out of 10 cases, Booleans lead to horrible edge flow and poor typology. That being said, given enough time, the typology and poly count can be identical no matter what method you use. So essentially, each of these methods, along with several others, would work in developing this asset. This is why it is not only important, but essential to observe, learn, and experiment with different techniques, workflows, and tools. Through having that knowledge, it will allow you to find the techniques that work best for you. With this knowledge in mind, let's get started.